Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today, we're going to tackle a common issue that many developers face when working with Azure Pipelines, trying to find the correct environment value during repository checkout. If you've ever struggled with this problem, you're in luck because today we're going to dive into the solution. As developers, we know how important it is to have a smooth and efficient development process. But sometimes those pesky environment variables can get in the way. In Azure Pipelines, finding the correct environment value during repository checkout can be a challenge. But don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to overcome this hurdle. So let's get started. To understand why this issue occurs, we need to take a step back and look at how Azure Pipelines work. When you create a pipeline in Azure DevOps, it checks out your repository as part of the build process. But sometimes the environment variables that are defined in your pipeline aren't available during the checkout process. This can happen for a few reasons. One reason is that environment variables are only available within the scope of the job or stage where they're defined. If you try to access an environment variable outside of its scope, it won't be recognized. Another reason is that some environment variables might not be set until later in the pipeline. For example, if you have a variable that's dependent on the output of a previous task, it won't be available during repository checkout. So how do we solve this problem? The key is to understand that environment variables are only accessible within their defined scope. To make them available during repository checkout, you need to define them at the pipeline level or use a different approach altogether. One solution is to use pipeline variables instead of environment variables. Pipeline variables are defined at the top level of your pipeline and can be accessed from anywhere in the pipeline. This makes them perfect for scenarios where you need to access variables during repository checkout. Another approach is to use a custom script or task that sets the environment variable before the checkout process begins. This way, you can ensure that the variable is available when needed. For example, imagine you have an environment variable called build-env that you want to access during repository checkout. You could create a custom script task that sets this variable before the checkout process begins. Then, in your pipeline, you would reference this variable using the $unveil syntax. To summarize, when trying to find the correct environment value during repository checkout in Azure Pipeline, environment variables are only accessible within their defined scope. Pipeline variables can be used instead of environment variables for pipeline level access. Custom scripts or tasks can be used to set environment variables before checkout. Well, that's it for today, folks. I hope this explanation has helped you understand how to overcome the challenge of finding the correct environment value during repository checkout in Azure Pipeline. If you have any questions or need further clarification, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on Azure DevOps and other developer-related topics. If you've struggled with this issue before, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. How did you solve it? What approaches worked best for you? Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.